Right.
Good evening, you're on the smoking section, and today I have my friend and colleague, Paul Neff. Paul, how are you tonight?
Excellent.
You feel good?
Well, it's not healthy to get as angry as I felt this afternoon at the hearing, but I'm recovering.
Oh, you got angry.
Yeah.
Well, I thought, I'd like to kind of go over our performance at the hearing today, from a disinterested point of view, in a sense, to see, if there are ways that we could have done even better, let's say.
Yeah.
Now, because I always want to improve.
I think we would have been persuasive if they were really listening. The answer they gave David to his excellent points was disgraceful. And I think hopefully if any high school civics class were at the hearing, they would not have been impressed.
Who gave an answer to David?
Who's the fellow with the glasses?
Carlone, who was kind of running the...
Yeah.
Yeah, he could, Counselor Carlone.
These were non-answers. Both David and I were saying that the elite, really the professions connected with ending smoking, are at odds with just about everybody else. I don't see any enthusiasm for this crusade among the other professions, even the medical. I mean, he said that we've worked very closely and carefully with these organizations. Well, we know they're already committed to this cause. That doesn't mean that experts in their fields are committed to this cause.
Well, I mean, don't you think that we should approach the city council? I mean, every jurisdiction in this country has a governing body of some sort, right? Mm-hmm. And let's say you don't like any governing body. Even if that's the case, there's always going to be a governing body.
That's true. But there is such a thing as intellectual honor and just honor, period. And to me, honor in a thing like this is you meet an argument with a counter argument, not a dismissal.
Well, David's argument was that the secondhand smoke. Well, David didn't differentiate between indoor secondhand smoke and outdoor secondhand smoke. And today's discussion was primarily about outdoor secondhand smoke.
I'll tell you the truth, I don't differentiate that much either. I mean, it hasn't been proven at all that any kind of secondhand smoke has harmed anyone. And what I forgot to say was that on Facebook, all the friends that I've looked up who started smoking in high school and were my friends are still alive and healthy, and I don't know if they've quit smoking since then. But if they have, that rebuts one of their arguments, which is that if you start smoking in your teens, you're an addict for life. And when I post things against the anti-smoking movement, it brings everybody together.
Maybe we should just tell our viewers what the
Sure.
meeting was about. What was the meeting about today, Paul?
Well, it was about an amendment to an ordinance on workplace smoking that now includes outdoor construction sites.
Right, what's called unenclosed. Well, and today was the Ordinance Committee hearing, and they did not vote on it.
No.
This is the Ordinance Committee, and I think there will be another public hearing.
Well, we should go and try and get as many people as possible, because I think the more people are there, and I think one thing they respect really is that if the people represent organizations not necessarily dedicated to opposing anti-smoking measures.
Certainly. So
advocates for the homeless, advocates for the mentally ill, advocates for anybody, really. Like I say, I think in professions not connected with stopping people from smoking, these anti-smoking measures are irritating.
do you have any idea how we can get people to attend these hearings other than us?
And that's a tough one, because it's really a buzzkill to sit through this whole staged and orchestrated presentation that they put on and then to put forward your best arguments and then be dismissed. But the thing is,
I don't think our arguments were dismissed.
It does make a difference if a lot of us show up.
Right.
It does make a difference.
Right. Okay.
And it's, I mean, it's a good feeling just to be there and stand up for what you really believe.
But don't you think we should approach the city council? I mean, if we, in our minds, and I'm talking about just the city council, I'm not talking about anybody else. I'm talking about there are 3 city council members. Don't you think no matter what, we should approach them in terms of, well, we may not be able to persuade them, but at least they're sitting there listening to us.
Right.
Now I mean, right. So I mean,
Which means if we
don't you think we should keep a positive attitude towards elected bodies?
We should be good-natured. We should have a sense of humor as much as possible, which is hard. It takes a lot of discipline. I felt I could have done a lot better today.
Well,
we don't have to give credence to a lot of the things that are articles of faith with them. And I was glad David made a stab at, attacking the way they pile up concepts that mean a lot within their community, such as secondhand smoke kills, secondhand smoke endangers people. In the common community, like just in Harvard Square, at random, people don't act like they believe secondhand smoke is endangering them.
Right.
And we need to bring to them the way people actually are on the street. And
well, I mean, certainly
reality.
the city councilors who have gone out and campaigned for those seats and have interacted with thousands of Cambridge citizens and have been voted into the council, who have been running against other people, certainly they have a feeling. I mean, they have been able to get themselves elected, and it's very difficult to get elected to the city council.
When you vote for someone, you don't actually know what they're going to do, and you don't actually know what kind of pressures are put upon them from centralized government.
Well, there are a lot of
interested organizations.
Well, any politician in this country, in my opinion, or any politician in any country, certainly in a democracy, feels a lot of pressure from many sources.
Right, but I don't think, for instance, I don't think anyone sitting there was especially an enthusiast of power to the people, or really listening closely to the so-called common person, which in this case would mean anyone in a profession that's not related to stopping people.
Do you think there are politicians that are, power to the people and listen very, very carefully to what the people say, and then
to rise in politics, it's really hard to maintain your integrity, and that's always been the case.
Well, I mean, I think
if you read H.L. Mencken from the 30s and 20s, it was the same old thing,
Right.
So it's always going to be a struggle.
I mean, H.L. Mencken was a misanthrope and a curmudgeon.
No, he wasn't. I don't think he was. He loved great music. Mm-hmm. When I read a review of a book about this communal sort of a town up in Alaska where people they had very few police, very few laws. They were racially mixed, and
Right.
and when someone was in trouble, the well-off people would share with them and stuff like that. He did not debunk this book. He said, "This is great. People are, in this case, allowed to be intelligent."
Now, but the thing is, H.L. Mencken, the point is, let's say we had H.L. Mencken in Cambridge Citizens.
Oh, if only.
Yeah, well, if only.
Yeah.
Let's say he came to the meeting.
Yeah.
Do you think he would have been able to be more persuasive? Or would he have just alienated the city council?
No, I think he would have been awesome. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think at this point they're very committed to pushing through this anti-smoking agenda. And until the public, that is the media, editorials, push back, and they are starting to.
Oh, you think there's a change in the air?
You read articles.
You think there's a change in the air?
Yes, I do. I mean, people are more willing to say no No, that is not true. For instance, somebody said to one of the writers that I read recently, I forget where I read this, but, oh, so-and-so, some fashion model who smokes, oh, that's fine, I'm all for her going off and smoking and, you know, her freedom, but the fact is she's a role model. End of quote. The author says, well, no, she's not a role model, she's a model.
Oh, I see.
You know, and like more people are, and the more people that do that, the more other people are encouraged.
Now, but now what do you think about Sam Lipson's performance today?
I mean, he's committed to this. They're making a very big deal out of something, people smoking, that I never thought it was problematic, and I don't.
Well, I'm talking about on construction sites, unenclosed construction sites.
You know, I don't think that should even be an issue. I mean,
Well, Sam,
construction workers, smoking is heavy among construction workers, you know, and they don't like that. But construction workers, policemen, firemen, maybe they're not in the managerial professions, but they're very important. They're very special and vital people, right?
Certainly.
I don't think they're in any way inferior to administrators.
Well, essentially, they're trying to curtail the liberty of construction workers to smoke on construction sites.
Right, or as one of the people said, to bring the benefits of what has been imposed on white-collar workers to the blue-collar workers.
Right, but Sam Lipson,
against their wishes, even.
Sam Lipson, who is, I think, what's called the environmental health officer, I guess, of the Cambridge Health Alliance, which is the Cambridge Public Health Department.
Yeah.
He certainly didn't seem enthusiastic about this.
That was encouraging. Actually, yeah, he seemed to be wavering.
Not only wavering, he was saying,
That it's important.
first
to
of
draw a
all, he
distinction.
brought up
Yeah.
the fact that outdoor smoking, that even though he said that indoor smoking has been shown to be increase the risk factor, indoor secondhand smoke exposure, he brought up the fact that outdoor smoking, secondhand smoke exposure, there is no good science indicating that's bad. Now, he brought that up himself.
Yeah, or at least that there's a difference. They're not.
Well, yes, he made, so I mean, I don't think Sam, you know, frankly, unless he said, I don't think this is a good idea, don't do this, which he did not say, but he came close to that.
Right, it might have been hard for a guy in his position with his professional responsibilities to do that, but I didn't hear much heart behind.
Well, he's always a very kind of mellow type of person.
Yeah.
He doesn't, I mean, he didn't come right out and say, don't do this, but he said it's going to be very complicated. There's no good evidence that secondhand smoke in outdoors is bad for people. That he worked very hard crafting an anti-smoking measure. I mean, he seemed to throw up nothing but roadblocks against this. You know, in fact, I don't think he's for it.
He is listening somewhat, and he's got to be political about it. Yeah, you know, because he has to answer to other people besides us.
That's true.
But and it would have gone better, I think, if more people from the community showed up at the hearing, although the way it was timed, so it would be within people's workday. But I mean, like if construction workers came in and talked, you know, say more people that don't like this, if they would come and so that they would hear a lot of.
Well, I mean, it's difficult to get people. I mean, I sent out probably 80 emails to people, 80 people who have signed our petitions. You know, so they were, and many of these people do have the free time to be there, or could make it. I mean, you know, a lot of people will take a day off from work, let's say, to go to the beach, or they'll take a day off from work because they want a personal day, you know, as what's called a mental health day, etc.
I was sorely tempted myself. I mean, I didn't feel very particularly emotionally invested, not as much as, say, the ban on smoking in public housing.
Right, but what I'm...
However, I knew I had to be there.
Right, you did have to be there.
You know, it's a matter of honor, and it's a matter of what I believe.
Well, I mean,
what I believe in.
I definitely don't think this is a done deal.
No.
I mean,
no.
Sam was extremely lukewarm.
Yeah, that's true.
Carlone and Jan Devereaux, they certainly, they sat there and their ears were open and they listened. Now, were their minds closed or their minds open, or that is very difficult to tell, but I mean, they gave us plenty of time.
Yeah.
And we had the opportunity. And so I don't think this is a done deal by any chance, by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, we've never gotten in the past, ever since I've been doing this, really, is a free debate. They won't debate, say, the science that they claim is well established behind these things. They won't debate that with people.
Well, I'm just, as I've said this before, I don't think a city council hearing is, the place where we debate. I mean, by the way, Nadim, did you hear Nadim's closing arguments?
I had to go.
Oh, you seriously?
Yeah, I had to go. I had to go.
Really?
Yeah.
Why did you?
Because I had to go.
Oh, you're a busy boy. You're a busy boy, huh?
Very busy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm needed.
You're needed.
Yes, I have
really?
a lot of commitments.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
you were saying. So what did he say?
Oh, well, it was pretty amazing, actually.
Okay.
It was it was very polite and so forth, but he said, Nadim said that in 50 years nobody will be smoking, because he said that the smoking rates have been consistently going down, let's say since especially since 1980.
Well, there have been many times over the past 50 years that I've thought that smoking would be gone by, say, 2000,
Right.
or that it was on the way out.
Well,
now I don't believe that, because if that were even partly true, there would be no nice people, no intelligent people, no normal people smoking anymore.
Right.
It would definitely be a group that's disreputable.
Right.
And I'm not seeing that. I see groups of people socializing in
Right.
Harvard Square, drinking.
Right.
Some of them smoke, some of them don't.
Well, I mean, one thing that is a little bit disappointing to me, anyway, is the teenage smoking rate, by all accounts, is extremely low.
Well, it's an expensive habit.
Yeah, that's
And,
true. That's true.
Yeah, it is kind of sad, because smoking during the teen years is kind of important, as a rite of passage.
Certainly.
It's important to a lot of young people. And the fact that they do, like when I was a kid, the age was 16. If a kid smoked at 15 or 16 or 17, it's not the end of the world.
It's certainly not the end of the world.
They
In
have
fact, it
their
might
whole
be the
lives
beginning of the world.
to quit. There are more ways to quit.
Why would they want to quit, though?
Well, if I had, a respiratory impairment, I
right,
quit
certainly,
awful.
yeah.
You wouldn't want to. You'd do everything you could to minimize it and hopefully get better.
But I mean, it is disappointing that smoking rates are low among teenagers, and I think it's kind of harming teenagers. I mean, I think their obesity rates are up. Their asthma rates are up because of their low smoking. Their
Right.
peanut allergies are up. One last thing, if I can get a word in edgewise.
I'm
just
sorry.
kidding.
Go
I'm
ahead.
kidding. I'm teasing. Like the number of middle school kids, or kids, let's say 12 to 14, 15, from what I've read, who are not only on psychoactive medication,
Yeah.
but who are on antipsychotic medication,
Right.
is way up. So, I think it would be much better if they were smoking tobacco.
Well, and here's another thing. When I was a kid, like if a kid was like, say, 16 and allowed to smoke, I noticed they'd begin acting more adult.
Oh, I see what you mean.
There's nothing they can do that sends as strong a message that they are now adults and they're now free to do things that that children don't do.
Well, I mean, one problem with our society right now is that, in some ways at least, people are not being allowed to exercise freedom.
It makes me worry about what kids are being taught in school, because it seems with some of them, like the idea of being autonomous, or the idea that our government should represent us, these ideas are foreign to some of them. However, a lot of young people that I talk to, it's encouraging.
Well, I mean, yeah, no, I think I'm constantly amazed at the number of young people who are smoking, because it's really bucking, and it's very healthy on their part, because what they are doing is standing up against this kind of mass propagandizing and this kind of idea of making everybody the same and controlling everyone's. So when you see these young people smoking, boy, I mean, it really indicates a certain freedom of thought that they have.
Right, and as the situation changes and as time passes, the way you look at something like teenage smoking, it changes. Like maybe in the 50s it was associated with juvenile delinquency or something. But at this point...
Oh, I don't think it was associated with juvenile.
Well, different things, I know... Well, never mind that, but now it's definitely a statement, and I think from a mental health standpoint, it's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
To assert their autonomy.
Well, right, and I mean, it's, and one thing that is not completely associated with tobacco, but for example, when I went off to college at the age of 18, I was on my own. I mean, I chose whether or not I wanted to smoke. I chose whether or not I wanted to drink.
Right.
I was not, emailing my mother and father or texting my mother and father every time I put a load of clothing in the clothes washer. At college, we were really adults.
Yeah.
And now, like for example, under the Affordable Care Act, teenagers are on their, they're on their parents'. They can be on their parents' insurance plans until they're 26 years old. I mean, when do they grow up?
Right.
And boy, I remember in college it was pretty amazing. And the young people today. Well, that sounds fun. The young people today. Youth is not what it used to be. I think there's no question about
nor is
that.
adulthood. Childhood is
or maybe there is no
definitely.
adulthood anymore in our society. Maybe we're too dependent on public health officials and all that kind of stuff to determine what we should eat and what we should drink, etc.
One of my new friends on Facebook posted a good statement. Being a moderate is the new extremism.
Yeah, well, we are living in a society right now where people, it seems that more and more people, at least that I know, adopt very extreme political views.
Right, to conform.
Well, I don't know if it's to conform.
I mean, there is a lot of pressure to conform.
I mean, the people.
I don't know if this is overblown or what, but you read about students on campus that like enforce even tighter politically correct speech codes than existed in the 80s and 90s.
Well, there were none in the 80s and 90s. There were no speech codes on college campuses.
I mean, like what they're doing, it's even shocking to people like Stanley Fish, who was never one of my favorite people.
I don't know much about Stanley Fish, although I read a book by him. Couldn't figure it out, but it was a book on writing. Who is Stanley Fish?
Well, it's actually I'm not sure either, but I mean he's an educator,
a noted academic.
Yeah, I read about him in Dinesh D'Souza's book. Illiberal Education. And
did Dinesh D'Souza speak favorably or unfavorably?
Unfavorably, in a temperate way.
Yeah.
He let him expose himself,
Well, you know something. So after the meeting, I schmoozed a little with Nadim and Jan Devereaux and Sam, and even that guy who presented he presented, this is all Kelly, Craig Kelly's, his assistant.
Yeah.
He's the guy who did the presentation.
Right.
And he smokes.
I know, and he didn't sound like he had much conviction either. I could barely hear a word he said.
Yeah, but anyway, he smokes.
Yep.
And he was a nice guy, and I talked to him. Listen, I don't think we should, the city council and the American public has not heard a rational defense of smoking. So I think, Paul, sometimes you are a little impatient with these people because they've just not been exposed to it. So for 30 or 40 years, they've been inundated with it. It's very hard for them to open up at all.
Well, I'm not, yeah, and I'm not even trying to defend it as much as you are. Like, I just want to bring things back to where it's regarded as a permissible vice.
Okay.
I mean, when I was growing up, and this is what my parents told me when I used to bug them about smoking, some people need a particular vice to help them do their thing.
Right,
Like
for sure.
writers may need nicotine, maybe even amphetamine, booze, whatever, to do what they do.
Well, anyway, so I talked to Nadim after the hearing, and he's going to come on the smoking section.
That's good.
And
Can I be on with them?
oh boy, you want to be on with Nadim?
No, maybe not.
I don't know. I
Emily
really
can
don't.
handle it, but I don't know if
Well, I don't know. I would actually prefer that Emily be on the show with him than I would.
she'd be good.
Perhaps. I think it would be very good. And she's, she's a very good interviewer. And I think sometimes people get tired of me, if that's possible.
Well, only because you can get tired of anything, and you're very active. And
You don't
prolific.
think a little of me goes a long way?
A little of all good things.
Too much of
goes a long way.
anything is too much, right?
What we need is more people like you.
Well, the problem
more
is,
McFadden's.
Yeah.
And variety too. We need. You know what bothered me a little. And it always bothers me when somebody says that our side is conservative and reactionary. I don't see that at all.
not necessarily, and we don't need
Not
to be,
at all.
and we have to be nonpartisan, in my opinion, resolutely
yeah,
nonpartisan.
yeah.
Paul, we've only got 6 seconds. Let's say goodbye to our viewers. Thanks for watching.